It's game time. The Kid Gowie. Ravens Nation. All we know is purple and black. And if you're not a Ravens fan, welcome to Baltimore, Maryland, M&T Bank Stadium, where opponents don't make it out alive unless we bury them. Every team be afraid of them, especially all the quarterbacks, cause our defensive linemen won't hesitate to leave you sacked. Let's take a minute, go back to Super Bowl 35. Domination was an understatement up against the Giants. Numerous touchdowns, they put up numbers, and it didn't take a nutritionist to see they hunger. Only stat Kerry Collins could get was interceptions. He must have thought throwing to the D counted as receptions. The pass was legendary, but don't sleep on the present. Our secondary make quarterbacks avoid their direction. You trying to run the ball, you better hope your blockers work. You can juke, you can spin, but your destination's the turf. This is a man's game, being soft will get you hurt. Watch the defense force a fumble and the fans go berserk. 17 weeks, only one league out of 32 squads. No one's messing with our team. We all bleed black and purple, you can check our IVs. Raven Nation fly high, watch us all spread our wings. Put your game face on, embarrass the competition. You ain't talking about the greatest if the Ravens aren't mentioned. Screw every other team, cause those dudes are whack. In Baltimore, the only thing we know is purple and black. Go! They always win when the championship's on the line. So if you hoping that they failed, then you really wasting your time. Go and ask the 49ers, I'm pretty sure they remember when they made a comeback, but weren't declared the winners. 2 rings down, but you know they won't stop now. If the opposing D's caught slipping, you know exactly how that goes. That's another deep connection for 6 points in the end zone. The stadium goes wacko as Ravens put in work. Pittsburgh Steelers, that still curtain is looking more like a skirt. So tell me who they say is gonna beat them Bengals. Who used to be the Browns until they relocated? Ravens, they are one of the greatest. There's simply no denying it. To beat them, bringing your A game's a requirement. With the youth of the team, I bet they still be dominant, even after the greatest linebacker's retirement. 17 weeks, only one league out of 32 squads. No one's messing with our team. We all bleed black and purple, you can check our IVs. Raven Nation fly high, watch us all spread our wings. Put your game face on, embarrass the competition. You ain't talking about the greatest if the Ravens aren't mentioned. Screw every other team, cause those dudes are whack. In Baltimore, the only thing we know is purple and black. Go!
Welcome here another SG Sport coming to you with my guy Coach Sip to Tally. Shout out to Coach. We had them collabs before I came here, right? It's always fun to have Coach. It's a pleasure to be with him. I done collabs with the other guys too. It's just right now for me it's hard to do collabs with anybody because I'm 5 hours ahead. Anyway, how you doing, Coach?
I'm good. I'm glad you reached out to me. It's been a minute. It hasn't been since you sailed across the seas on us.
I know. I think the biggest problem is the hours, right? But since you've been doing the show at 4:30, I was like, okay, so Coach can probably squeeze me in at 4:30. But yeah, usually when I have reached to different people, and then like 4:30 is hard, 5. And then I woke up at 4 in the morning. I woke up around 4:30 in the morning local time. So I had to be in bed at least by 1 so I can sleep 3.5 hours. But anyway, none about that. Let's talk some football. Lamar Jackson pulled pen to paper. I don't know
Yeah.
about you. I was getting a little nervous, right? Because you hear agreed to terms, and the next thing you have is the picture, right? And the picture
Mhm.
never came. I'm like, what's this damn picture? I need my picture, right? The picture happened today, so we can all breathe easily. But the details in the contract, right? We know two things. He cannot be traded unless he agrees.
Mhm.
That's not uncommon for big deals like this. Then no tag is a nice little ad by Lamar. Shout out to him.
Yep.
Shout out to him and that little nugget there. The no tag. The question is, would the Ravens ever get to that fourth year? Because had you seen the details?
I got him right in front of me.
Okay, so I'm gonna show you all the details here. This is what it is, right? This is what has been reported. First year cap 22 mil. That's
Mm.
pennies for a quarterback his caliber. He loving life. Help us with the OBJ stuff, right? We have some cap space, and we can talk about too what we can do with that cap space that we currently have. But 22 mil, very easy. We know that first year is gonna be low. 33 mil in the second year, great too, right? That gives you flexibility to also add some players.
Yep.
Year three, 43 and a half. Start to getting a little spicy, but nothing like, oh my god. But that year four and year five is when it gets not spicy, it's like boiling. It's like inferno hot. 74 and a half mil to the cap hit. Now, arguably enough, that's when in theory they could cut him. Not that I want them to cut him, right?
Mhm.
Essentially in 2026, what you want is them to extend.
Mhm.
To extend that. They did the same thing with Flacco, right? Flacco back then, we thought it was outrageous, which it kind of was, but I think it was 24, 25, 26, something like that. And they extended Flacco, the cap went down a little bit, and that's what you want. And one void year, and then they have an option proration of 4.5 for 2029, but it's not, I guess, not set. What do you think about this, all this structure?
I think those first 3 years are built that way, and he allowed it to be built that way so he can keep quality players around him. I think by the time we get to year 4, what's that, 2026?
Yep.
I I project we have a Super Bowl and dare I say maybe another one close, and they'll extend it because that 74 is a hard number, and if they give him 74 in 1 year, like realistically, what kind of team can they put around him besides rookies?
Yeah, you can. Now 74 spicy. I mean, what you do is essentially the Saints did that was Drew Brees, right? They said, we're going to keep extending you. Your cap was going to be 40 or 50 in the last couple of years. And then we're going to suck for the next year or so. And then our hope is we can find a quarterback or draft one. And they
Mhm.
cut Carr at around 30, maybe it was 40. Can't remember right now. The Ravens need to have the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Basically, we're gonna push money until you either cannot play or you retire, whatever. And at that point, you are
The
if you're
start of the
lucky
cycle again.
enough, yeah, if you're lucky enough, you get a quarterback that year in the first round that can just transition, and then you eat a big chunk that first year, almost like you're paying that quarterback. But in the following year, everything should be
Mhm.
more well, it should be better, right? Because you don't have the cap hit. But yeah, I mean, this by 2026, one or two things happen. Either Lamar's here extended or Lamar's not here. He
Mhm.
cannot play a 74 and a half. It's almost impossible to just build a team.
Right.
Um,
What I will say is what I think they should do is 2025 definitely draft a QB, or maybe even 2024 draft a QB that is significantly younger than him that they can groom. So that way, if it goes left when it's time to pay 74,
mhm.
you got a guy that have been there for 2 or 3 years and that you could put in. If not, if you don't do that, once you get to 74, you basically reset the franchise because you got to find a new QB.
Yeah, yeah. Ideally, that 2025 year, if you get a guy like the guy from Tennessee that fell to the third or fourth round, right? You can draft him, having him there for a year or two behind Lamar, and then year two you will know, right? Does Lamar really have like juice for 4 or 5 years? If he does, well, you just have a backup there for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't, then at least you have a transition plan. The Ravens were lucky enough that we got Lamar Jackson, and when Flacco got hurt, Lamar took the rails and never looked back, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like the perfect situation, right? The other perfect scenario is not that I'm wishing injury upon anybody, but what the Colts had, right? Manning couldn't play the 1 year. They happened to suck because when you don't have your starter, you usually tend to suck.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrew Luck happened to be in that draft,
Right.
and then transition was smooth for them, right? Those are like the Disney scenario, right? Like the happy, beautiful, like everything worked out for you as a franchise. But anyway, I just want to make sure you guys understand this. Like the contract is space for the next 3 years. The Raven will have space. Even the 43 and a half, that's not a like, oh my God, we can work on that. Also, the cap should go up by then to bring new players. Now, this is a philosophy that I have. The Kansas City Chiefs had done this, Coach. I would like to hear from you. I know my guys, Lunch Up Break Hot Takes, are around there somewhere. Shout out to them too. Make sure you go check their channel. What the Chiefs did is what eventually the Ravens have to do. Now, people don't like to hear that, and I think for me it makes sense. But again, I want to hear from you. And my theory is this: look, I'm paying you quarterback, top of the market, right? Top 5. Right now it's 1, but eventually we'll go down because there's 2 quarterbacks that are probably gonna surpass. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you as a quarterback, you affect the whole team with your play because if you're sucking, the whole team suffers. If you're doing great, the whole team gets elevated. But if we go onto the details, there's positions that the quarterback cannot affect, and there's position the quarterback can affect real good. So for me, when you get to that position that you pay that quarterback, you build the O-line
Mm-hmm.
because you need to protect that asset, right? The Ravens, they haven't done a good job on that. Ronnie Stanley, when he's healthy, he's great. Left guard right now, we'll see. I know you're a big Cleveland guy. I like him too, but you saw they're drafting 2 guys that could potentially be guards. The guy from USC, we'll talk about him later, but I think he's the Zeiler replacement, right, for next year. Okay, Linderbaum, love. I mean, I wanted Linderbaum at 14. They eventually drafted with the 20, whatever it was.
5.
25, perfect pick. Again, Billy Diola, Seiler, a very strong right guard. And mostly, I think he's a strong right tackle. And we have their replacement, also another guy that I think he's going to be playing his last year in Baltimore this year. Okay. Then receiver. Now, we had cheapened out on receivers in the past couple of years. Now we have a very expensive receiver, OBJ. And Mark Andrews, top, whatever it is, pay tight end. And on the defense is when the Ravens have their money. Right. And I think, and this is where I think the fan base hates when I say this, I think that is the recipe for moving forward. You build your O-line to protect Lamar. That has to be number 1. On the receiving side, that's the position that Lamar can affect. Also with running backs, right? You pick one, almost like the same, similar to what the Chiefs do, right? You pick one and you pay him, right? Whoever this one is, could be Mike Andrews. In the future, could be another, right? Could be Say, could be Bateman, whoever. But you cannot go and pay all the receivers. This is my argument also with Cincinnati, right? Eventually, if they're just gonna pay the receivers and their O line, that defense is gonna suck, or they're gonna have to do a hell of a job on the draft. Because on the defensive side, if you had that guy on offense, and the defensive side, he cannot affect that defense, right? That defense cannot be. So that's where you want to pay a couple different players in different positions so they can help him, give him the ball, right? That's how I think this team should be built moving forward. You should draft more capital on offense if you're gonna pay the defense, or if you're gonna pay the offense. Then you need to hit the draft regardless. If you're gonna have Lamar Jackson, you cannot. If you're gonna struggle in the draft, that's how a guy that had a big cap hit, that team goes down to flames, right? You've seen it with Detroit when they play Stafford. Stafford's a above average quarterback, but their draft picks were horrible. Well, you can't pay much people when your cap hits like that. Anyway, that's my philosophy. I would like to hear yours, Coach.
I'll start on the offensive side. I think going forward, there needs to be a cycle of running backs, because as much as we love JK, as much as we love Gus, that position does not need to get a big payday. It's, with Lamar back there, he's going to affect the run game because you have to keep eyes on him. So that's an extra defender that can't just sell out for the run. So I think I'm not gonna say we have a plug and play backfield, but we don't have. We shouldn't. Nobody should get Zeke type money playing with the Ravens at at running back. You play. You get your rookie deal. And if you blow up within that rookie deal, I'm sorry, we just got to let you walk.
Yeah,
and we'll bring the next guy in. O-line wise, I think you do need to invest in O-line because you have to protect Lamar. You have to protect Lamar.
Yeah.
As far as the receivers, you have to have the guy. You got to. So you're gonna have to pay at least one receiver. I don't know whether that's gonna be Bateman or it's gonna be Zay behind him. But
or an outside guy, right? Because the thing is, Zay is gonna be cheap for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So if Bateman is currently not working, let's say this year, I'm hoping not. He has an injury year, and Odell's gonna be gone next year. Well, now you have money to go get again one guy and Mark Andrews. Right. Sorry.
Right. And how long is Mark signed for? Another 2 years or 3?
I think it's 2. So he should be. You should be getting close to. I'll look for.
I think with the emergence of Isaiah and depending on what we get from Kohler, Mark may not get a second one either. That way you can keep your money flowing to the O-line and to whatever receiver you decide to play, because you got 2, I think, decent young tight ends. We know Likely is proven that he can fill in when Mark's not there. We don't know about Kohler yet because of the injury, but I think the roster is set up to, as you hit that 30-ish mark, it's time to rotate you.
He has 3 years, and that third year, when his last year of the contract is up, he's 30. So I agree with you.
And then on the defensive side, if your philosophy is going to be to pay the defense, you just got to do what you got to do. You got to draft well. You got to pick your spots because you got one of the highest paid, if not the highest paid linebacker. You got a high paid safety back there. You got a high paid corner back there. We don't have anybody up front, to my knowledge, that's like
nobody.
But if you're gonna have 2 guys on the back end that's like making a bunch of money, you got to hit on the guys up front, because no matter how good you get, you can have 4 All-Pro DBs. If you're not getting any pressure, they're going to get cooked at some point. So you got to measure it, and you got to team build the right way. But if your philosophy is still going to be to have all this capital on defense, you got to hit on it. You can't afford to miss. You can't afford to have, and I know it's not dead money as far as the cap, but you can't afford to invest a bunch of money in a player that's not producing. So that's what's going to be crucial for Oweh. It's going to be crucial for whatever other guys that got like another year or so on their rookie deal for them to show up and either produce or move out the way for the next gen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in theory, guys, you are. I mean, we're talking like you're gonna go invested heavy on defense, but in theory, it almost will be a 50-50 because Lamar will take a huge chunk of the offensive if you just looking at it like that. Then the O-line is super expensive. Not necessarily ours, just the O-line in general expensive, right? Guards, like if it is a top, like if Linderbaum becomes a Pro Bowl center, All Pro, he's gonna be expensive eventually, right? So you're gonna pay him. And if you get a Pro Bowl / Old Pro guard or perennial, it's also going to be expensive, right? And if you have that one guy receiver wise that is expensive, that right there is huge, especially with Lamar's cap hit.
Yep.
This is all to say the draft class is critical.
Every time.
Have to hit. You can't be I was looking into this. Our 20. What was it, the Hollywood Brown draft class? That was 2019?
Yes.
That draft class was horrible for us. I mean, Hollywood was okay.
It was Hollywood, and that's it.
Hollywood was okay. I was not a big fan of the Hollywood pick. I remember, Coach, I was talking to this the other day. There's a video out there. I remember me and you streaming, talking about that draft, pre-draft. And we talk about Hollywood, and I compare Hollywood to Deshaun Jackson. And I remember you saying like, "Oh, that's a perfect comp for him," and that is essentially what he was for us, right? He was that home run hitter. So you cannot have a class like that,
right? You can't have 6 or 7 picks and one produce. You gotta hit on both sides, because the thing is, you want to maximize the Super Bowl window of Lamar Jackson, because you never know when you're going to get a QB of this magnitude. So while he's here, and even though we kind of fumbled the first 5 years, we fumbled the bag on those 5. You can't fumble it now because he makes so much, and it'll put you in a bad spot. And you don't want to have an offense that can score, 45 points, but then your defense giving up 50. It's gonna have to be. It's gonna have to be balanced in that somewhere. The monies have to be spread out, and I think it's getting to the point where Jose always say defund the defense, but I think it's getting to the point where, like you said, the money's starting to equal out, and a huge chunk of that is probably going to the quarterback. I think Odell's contract is probably one of the biggest contracts a receiver has gotten in Baltimore. So I think the philosophy is got his signal light on. Yeah. It hadn't turned yet, but it's got a signal light on with potential to maybe turn. And I don't necessarily say spend a ton of money on offense, just balance it out.
Exactly.
Just balance it out.
Think about this. Stanley was the highest paid tackle when his deal came out. Stanley's deal is about to some point next year or so. Now, it's tricky with Stanley because the problem with Stanley's health. Can he show me the next 2 years that he can be healthy? Because when he's healthy, he's a good tackle, right? If he has injury years in the next 2 years, even though I love Stanley and I think he's great, either he's back on a cheap deal because of injuries, or you just need to find another left tackle. But look, just so you guys know, that 2019 class, Hollywood Brown, Jalen Ferguson, rest in peace. Miles Boykins, Justice Hill, which is a special teamer. I remember people loving him as a running back.
Both of them were. Boykin and Hill, special teamers.
Yeah, special teamers. Yeah.
Both were the starting gunners at one point.
Yes. But I remember people, when we had Justice Hill, people were like, oh my God, he's going to be great. He's a home run hitter. I never saw that on him. I saw flashes, but he could never translate. Ben Powers. Look, Ben Powers was great for 1 year for us. Was great for that 1 year. And then he left. Eamon Marshall, that's the pick that I hated that year. Dylan Mack and Trace McSorley. So obviously you cannot have that type of class again.
It's one person left from that class on the team.
The what?
The only person left on the team for that class is Justice Hill.
Yes, Justice Hill. Yeah, and he's just a special teamer, to be honest, right? I mean, they put him, and I don't know about you, Coach. Every time I see Justin Hill in the field, I hate it not because of him. There has to be a stat. Every time he's on the field, we cannot convert on third. On short, on medium, on long. And he doesn't even have to in the play. It's like, it's a bad juju. I don't know what it is.
I think that's more so the guy that was calling the plays in than him.
It could have been.
Because I saw, like, when he got opportunities, because he was the fastest running back we had last year. And he was really shifty. But his ball security was an issue. And once he fumbled that one time, his reps went down, and I think his nerves were shaky. So he wasn't as shifty as he was. He was making sure, even in the open field, he was covering the ball up. I remember taking a screenshot. He got outside, and it was the running back blocking the DB, and the pursuit coming from the inside. Instead of him just hitting it outside, he ran right into the guy blocking.
I think my problem with Hill, what it seems to me at least, is the natural instincts are not there. So he tends to overthink, and then he cannot use his speed, right? Like, he's fast as a line runner, and he has shiftness. I agree with you. He has that quick, shifty, he has that legs. He can turn direction, but because he has to think so much, it almost feels like it doesn't come natural to him. Versus JK is thinking, but JK is thinking to just see where's the weak. You can think about JK and Gus. Gus doesn't do it as well as JK. JK processes it, looks for the hole, and hits it. Gus is just hard to tackle.
Yeah, right.
Right. So Gus is like, you know, if you guys watch Harry Potter, you know that the night bus, how he goes slim. How Gus sees a little hole, he doesn't. Okay, I'll fit, and then he almost becomes tiny for that moment, and then hits it. And then when he's in the open field, he's hard to tackle.
Right.
Anyway, moving forward, that's it, right? EDC has to hit, and the positions where we have struggled, like corners, we have been good, even developing corners. My problem with the fan base is, like, they will see an Armor Davis struggling last year and be like, oh, he's a bum. No, he's a 4th round pick. He needs time to develop. Pepe Williams, oh, he's a bum. No, I think it was a 4th. Okay, 4 round pick. Yeah, you're right. 4th. So he needs time to develop. When Aver was here, that first year, he wasn't good. By the time he left, he was a good starting corner. Was he Marlon Humphrey? No.
Nope.
Was he a good starting corner? He was, right? And Stevens, right? You can see Stevens' progression with time, and that's what you want to see. progression. So I think with corners we've done a good job. I think with D tackles, interior alignment, you think Amada Buke, you think Brian Washington,
Travis Jones.
Yeah, Travis Jones. You can see the development with the Ravens. I was surprised that they did not draft any D tackle this year, or
You
interior
see
D line.
the UDFA, they got 5 of them.
Yeah, they did, and I think one of those who might make the team. I do think and we'll talk about the picks later. But Robinson, I think he will be interior D lineman, meaning a 3-tech on the edge. But where we have struggled, we know the receivers. This documented the Ravens suck historically drafting receivers and developing receivers. Torrey Smith and Hollywood Brown might have been the best 2 that we drafted here. I think with Bateman's on the field, he looks great, and I love Bateman. That's the pick that I wanted that year. But health is a concern. That is your best ability is availability, right? Cliche, but it's true. But a position that we don't talk enough, that we suck at drafting, is outside edge rusher. Now, I hated the Odafe pick. I ate my worst that first year because I was like, well, he was better than I thought. I remember that whole draft class. And there's videos out there, right? Odafe hated. I almost hated the whole draft class. I hated Rousseau. And I think Rousseau has played better numbers, but every time I see him, I'm like, oh my God, I don't think like he's great. I just think he benefits from a strong interior D lineman and a good pass rush on the other side with Von Miller. When Von Miller left he got injured. Rousseau's number. He for me, he's not a great. Yeah, I don't think he's great. I think in a good situation, he can be a serviceable. And I think the same thing with Odafe. Odafe is not better than Tyus Bowser. And we drafted him in the first round, right? Okay, so saying that, Odafe, I'm hoping I can eat my words. He had a bad second year, a way better first year than I thought. Let's go into the third year because this is his critical year, right?
Yep.
If he's great, we pick up his 5th-year option. David Ojabo, I actually like coming out of college. David Ojabo versus Odafe, I actually like what he saw. My question with Ojabo was he also benefiting from a strong
Hutchinson?
Exactly, Hutchinson. That is the question. So that is a position we need to figure out, right? I think if not, the Ravens next year, that first-round pick, it will be an outside rusher because we'll have to keep drafting it until eventually we hit it.
I think that this really is crucial for Owe, and I like you. After that first year, I kind of ate my words too, thinking he was better than I thought.
Yeah.
So
naturally, you didn't like him coming out. You didn't like him coming out. Me neither.
No. Naturally, you think guys would get better from year to year, especially after they learn the game, after they've been in games and they know the speed and kind of what they can do and what they can't do. My problem is with Owe is, and I think what ended up being his problem is he got too buff, and he couldn't move like his movements in year 2 look not like that. Like when he got in that game and made that move against Big Zeus, he couldn't make movements like that in year 2. He was too robotic, too stiff, couldn't even really turn his hips. He kind of looked like it's like a robot, like he was doing a robot on the field. And he had that one move, the bull rush. He didn't have a counter off of it. And so I was thinking year 2, he would find a counter and just add to his game. But I think he bulked up too much. He couldn't move like he wanted to. And so, or like he was used to. And so now maybe coming into this year, if he keeps that buff, he's now able to maneuver and add flexibility to that strength. And maybe he can start to bend better.
Yeah.
Because this is like, again, if he don't have a good year this year, he might be toast. And especially if Ojabo come in and do something.
Yeah. I mean, if he doesn't have a good year, he will be Patrick King. We're not gonna pick up his 5th-year option. He might be here for an extra year. The problem, I agree with you. I didn't think about what we were saying before, but I think the athleticism, he looks slower. He did look slower. I know people in the chat here are going crazy because we're bashing Owe. I mean, we're just being honest here.
Yolanda loves Owe. That's her guy.
That's his guy. But what I think with Owe is you can see the counter moves this year. But similar that we were talking with Hill, he's thinking too much. So, for example, when we talk about a guy like Miles Boykins, he ran like one route or two. And when his route tree expanded in Baltimore, because it did expand, but he didn't know how to sell it. Right? He was thinking throughout the route, this is where I need to make the cut. So it didn't look fluid. So he didn't fool anybody, right? And it's almost like always in the same boat, right? He this doesn't come up fluid. And he has a good mentor with Justin Houston, right? But Justin Houston shouldn't be better than Owe last year.
Right.
Always the young buck, always in the year 2, right? He has his mentor. Always should be the better version of Houston year 2, even if it's not better, at least to the same level. And again, what my problem was, looking robotic is a good word. He's thinking too much. I think he's just, okay, let me do this. And I think now you have film about yourself, so people know what to expect. And if you don't know how to sell it, as soon as you do this, oh, I know what he's gonna do. He's gonna swipe, but then he's gonna do the spin move. Oh, he does it at overtime. So they're not gonna overcommit when you do the swipe in the inside, because now they can slide to the outside, because that's what's next. That's what's next, right? We'll see. Look, again, even the picks I hate for the Ravens, my goal is to eat my words, because I want my guys to be good.
Yep.
So that being said, we have some cap room. We don't know essentially yet, because they haven't updated the cap of how much available it is. Before we go to the rookies, what position you think we signed Rock Justin? I think that's a solid pick, right? I don't think I know we all wanted Juice. I don't know if Juice will happen. I would have liked to see Juice, but I don't think it will happen unless he comes here for a vet minimum. But we have a lot of corners, at least in the roster. What position would you like for them to address? What other position would you like them to add?
I want to say another corner.
Okay.
I want to say another corner, but I'm not. Okay. I'm going to go with edge, with something off the edge, because when you think of the edge guys, who we got? We got Ojabo, who's unproven. Owe, who's technically unproven, even though he has some reps. Not Houston yet. I don't think Houston's not back yet. Bowser, I really like. Bowser's extremely versatile. I'm good. I'm good with Bowser. What else do we have on the edge other than like I said? So we need a third, maybe even a fourth guy. So I would love to bring Houston back.
I think we don't have anybody else in the roster itself.
Right. So that's edge is the position I would go with.
I agree. And for me, if I'm gonna tell you the ones that are currently available, that at least for me will make sense to take a look. Houston, I agree, because Houston is a good leader, good mentor. If Odafe didn't learn, let's say this year from Houston, Ojabo might suck some of that information. I actually, with Houston, will bring his counterpart from Kansas City,
Frank,
right? Frank Clark. Yeah, he's 29. Yeah, why not? I think he could be productive. You can say, hey, I'm going to sign you in a 1-year deal. There's a strong defense. You might shine, and then you might get paid, right? I'll sign both. And if not, the other guy that, again, and a good deal, that I love it. See, people sometimes are very stuck with sacks. My problem with is not even that he didn't have sacks, is he didn't sniff the quarterback. Like, he was nowhere to be found near the quarterback. But a guy that I thought it was destructive, and he plays interior D-line. He's an edge, but he plays interior D-line, was JPP. JPP on a good deal. I haven't heard that he signed with anybody, but JPP on a good deal. Dude, I feel like JPP every time was on the field, he was pushing that pocket. Yeah, he wasn't getting there, but he was. If you had a decent rusher next to him, that job for that decent rusher would have been way easier.
Yeah.
So those three, like if you can bring me those three on a good deal, yes, sign me up, because we need another guy in the interior as well. Because if you think interior, we have, and those guys rotate a lot, right?
Yes.
But you have Marabike, you have Washington, you have
Urban
Jones, who
Jones and Urban,
and yes, and Urban, right? That's it. That's your four.
You might got Roger Washington too, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, and Pierce. Pierce is back.
Oh, Pierce.
Pierce is back.
Okay, so you have those five. Now, Pierce, Washington, and Jones are very close. Well, Pierce is a nose, but Washington is as close as you can be for the nose. And the other guy, Washington, Jones, and Pierce are very similar. Urban actually is more of a 3-tech, which okay, cool.
Yep.
And Maravika can play that 3-tech as well.
And Maravika can do both. And I honestly think Houston did more mentorship to Maravika than he did Owe. Because you would always see him, hyping Maravika up and giving him pointers and whatnot, and telling, just basically instilling confidence in Maravika, telling him that, look, bro, these people can't block you. Just stop thinking and go.
Well, Calais used to do that to him a lot, right? Calais and Calais played that 3-tech well. But what I'm saying is, even with that, I feel like you need that one extra guy. And I think you can bring JPP to be that guy there to be 3-tech, not to play edge, but to play that 3-tech in. Again, not to get sacks. The sacks will not, when you're in the 3-tech, when you're in the inside, sacks are harder, right? But if you can suck 2 blockers and make the life easier for the rest, that's what I'm hoping Maravika does. Gets you 4, maybe 5 sacks, which would be huge for him. But destroy that inner line. Yeah, I agree with you. Edge is the position. They need to figure out how to bring edges.
The thing is, they all go together. If we don't get a ton of sacks, as long as we getting pressure, serious pressure, we got the DBs to make plays on the back end. But if we don't get any pressure, no matter how good those DBs are, they're at some point going to get cooked or get tired. And what a lot of people don't realize about last year is we blame the defense a lot for giving up a lot of points. And yes, we did give up a lot of points. But later on in the season, the offense was not helping to control the clock so those guys could get rest. So eventually you bend on break. You're gonna that crack's going to break.
Yeah.
And you got to think about it. The offensive coordinator on the other team gets paid too. So once he finds the weakness, he gonna go to it.
Yep. Yeah. So again, I think if we can bring those 3, I think you bring Frank Clark. I love Houston, and I don't think anybody's right now looking for neither of these guys, right? And I think for us would be solid. Yeah, they're on the older side. I mean, Clark is 29, so he's not super old, but the other 2 are on the other side of the 30s. But they were productive with us. They know the defense, right? It's not like it's going to be, oh my God, a huge adjustment. JPP was here for a year, and Houston's been here for 2. And that allows for the edges to have some time to develop a little more. Again, Olafe always hoping to get that big jump, but Ojabo, essentially, he's a rookie, right? Last year, he played a game. So, yeah. Anyway, let's transition now to the picks.
Okay.
I think I've been critical to Eric DaCosta. I've been one of those YouTubers that when people tell me, oh, he's the godfather, EDC we trust, I'm like, no, I personally trust Ish. Always put that Ish because I think he's been okay as a GM. I don't think he's been great. I think he is above the middle of the pack in GMs in the league, but he's not even close to what Aussie was for us, and he's not close to the top of the league on picks. I feel like when we trade, sometimes like the Orlando Brown Jr., I thought the year before I said we were going to trade him, so I wasn't mad that we traded him. I was mad at the compensation. You top tier left tackle, and you essentially gave him for a 3rd, right? So saying all that.
No, we got a 1st. That's where Owe came from.
Yes, we get a 1st, but we gave a 2nd. It was like if you take all the picks swap that happened, it rounded up to being a 3rd. That's how the point spread, right? Like, yeah. Anyway, so if you do the math, it was essentially a 3rd, a high 3rd, but a 3rd. But yes, we got a 1st, but we didn't have a 2nd that year. Anyway, saying that, I love Zay Flowers. Now, I do want a big receiver, but when I did my receiver review, Quinton Johnson, which is a guy that I actually watched, not only film, I watched tape, I watched live games. I love his what the receiver looks, right? Like if you want to build a receiver, that's it. I just didn't like how he played. One of my biggest pet peeves is when a receiver allows the ball to come to the chest. That's a big red flag for me. But he also didn't attack the ball. I'm like, dude, you're so big. That was the same problem that I had with Chase Claypool coming out of college. I'm like, you're so big and you don't play big. Zay Flower is maybe 5 feet. We know he's more than 5 feet, but he plays so aggressive. He looks to get the ball. He wants to get the ball. He doesn't shy away. He looks to make people miss. And when I was in my relation, I remember when I'm like, I don't want to draft Zay Flowers, right? This is pre-watching tape. I don't want to draft Zay Flowers. I don't want to draft Downs. Oh, I would love to draft Quince Johnson, and the other two maybe, right? Addison, I was not a big fan of Addison.
Mm-hmm.
I was not a big fan of Quinn Johnson, although if we drafted him, I would have been happy because my hope was we could develop him to be the potential he has. I think he went to the right place with in the Chargers over there with two bigger receivers. Hopefully, he can learn from there. I like Jackson Smith and Jigba, but I thought he was essentially, I don't know what you think about him, but essentially he is what he is. I don't think he has too much of an upside. I don't think he has too much of a floor. He's basically what he's gonna be. He is already is. And I love Zay Flower. I watched it. And I actually love Downs as well. Two smaller receivers. I'm like, but especially Zay, I was like, dude, this guy's aggressive. Can we? Because I've been wanting an Anquan Bolden type of receiver, right? A Steve Smith type of receiver, a Derek Mason type of receiver, like aggressive. Like, do you want that ball? And that's what I saw on Zay. What do you think?
And just to kind of talk about all of them together, there were two guys that were short that played well above their height, and that one was Zay, the other was Josh Downs. They were two guys that had high contested catch rates. And if people that don't know that, it's a number from PFF. One of the few numbers that I think they're good at is basically contested catches, and they the ones you catch and the ones you don't, and then they make a percentage out of it. So Zay and Downs had high contested catch rates, and there are plenty of footage out there of Downs just going up over people, and Zay also, especially was it NC State? I think it's the picture. It's the picture that everybody used for their thumbnail where he's flipping the ball off, where he's double covered and he goes up over one of the safety's head and catches the ball. But his in and out, his over the middle type stuff, I think he's going to be the perfect slot receiver for us because you can leave Bateman, you can leave Odell outside, even though both of those guys could kind of flip flop. Even though I think more so Odell than Bateman, and he can do all the stuff that an Edelman, a Wes Welker, a Hunter Renfro, all that little dirty interior stuff that 3rd and 2 and you run a whip route with him or you run a jerk route with him. And the thing is if he get that little 3-yard route and he doesn't get tackled immediately, he has the ability to make people miss. And he can crib stuff on when you're just trying to get first downs. You can use him in an RPO game. He'll be good there because he's a strong hands catcher. And with that added muscle he put on, he can protect himself, from those linebackers. I love the Zay Flowers pick. He was the second best receiver to me in the class. Not Addison. JSN was the best. As far as JSN, I think him, coming back from this healthy hamstring, you haven't seen. I think JSN was way better than anybody in the draft, including Zay Flowers, even though it had Zay number 2. But JSN got a thing about him where he doesn't have speed, but people still can't guard him. And that's totally
he's so
different.
fluid. He's so fluid.
Because if he had any kind of speed, and if he developed any kind of speed, which you can develop it a little bit, once you get healthy, he's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Tough to have.
And he went to a good position too with Seattle, right? Mm-hmm. Like that was perfect for him. Like that was like if anybody he has DK on the outside, and Lockett there too as another speedster. It's just perfect for him.
But I'm cool with it. I'm cool with Zay Flowers. I think he's gonna fit well in what Monken's putting together, and I think people are gonna be surprised with what Monken put together because he ain't just a too heavy tight end type guy. He's ran all kind of systems.
Oh yeah,
and I've been preaching it for the longest. He's run 4 wide, no huddle, up and down the field, basketball on turf at Oklahoma State. Yeah. He's run pro style offense in Georgia and at LSU. He ran the NFL offense with Chubb and Kareem Hunt at Cleveland, which was giving us problems for a minute. So, I think I'm excited to see what he put together, especially now that Lamar's in the fold and they can all kind of get on one accord and learn what they're doing.
I agree. And then Trent Simpson, look, when I saw that draft pick, I tweeted immediately like, okay, that's it for Queens, right? There's because what Trent Simpson he's the copy of Patrick Queens, right? Literally a fast linebacker, explosive linebacker, that sometimes over pursues. That's my biggest problem with Patrick Ewing's coming out, and he still kind of does it. I think when we brought Rowe and allowed him to, like, it took some pressure out of him, and he played better. Definitely played better. But the problem with Queen is he over pursues the plays a lot, and it's the problem with Simpson. Now, Simpson's a 3rd-round pick versus a 1st-round pick, so he has a year to develop. But I love the pick because, again, we've talked about you need to pick your spots, who you're playing, right? Who you are paying, and Queen is not a guy that you're gonna pay. Now, I would say this: I wouldn't trade Queen because you have him on the roster for cheap, and he played well. And the hope is he can keep playing well. And unless Trenton Simpson comes and plays equally as Queen, you keep him for a year and then you let him go because you're pushing for the Super Bowl. But what do you thought about the Simpson pick?
I didn't like it. I didn't like it. And upon looking film upon it, he is not an interior linebacker.
You don't think so?
He's a 3-4 edge guy, or he's a nickel type deal. Like him playing in the box. He don't know how to get off blocks. He don't use his hands well. He sticks and stays the blocks. He does overrun stuff once it's coming straight at him. Now chasing stuff down, he's great at it. Great at the play going away from him and chasing it down. But again, reading pullers and all that type of stuff. Like the Clemson played him in 3 positions: on the edge, in the middle, in the middle like a backer, and in the alley, like a nickel type dude. He excelled at the nickel position, especially in zone coverage. He excelled at the edge as far as taking on pullers and chasing down plays from the backside, and also dropping off in peel coverage. And if the running back acts like he's gonna block it, then goes in the route, does a great job of peeling off on him, stuff like that. So coverage wise, zone coverage wise, he's good to me. Man coverage wise, he's average, but coming off the edge, awesome. Anything from center to guard, he ain't ready now. Not who's to say he can't get to it, but right now he's not it. So I'm hoping that Queen stays.
Struggles, right? That's what Queen's to this day. I feel like Queen still struggles with that.
I disagree.
Queen is
the first 2 years definitely, and then his missed tackles have went down a ton. Even before Roquan got there, he was starting to play better. So Roquan coming helped him. I don't say unlock his potential, but they played well off each other because even before Rowe got there, Queen hadn't come into his own. And I think this year, if he just forgets I'm not going to be here next year, if he just plays ball and uses it as motivation to get a big contract from somebody else, I think him and Roquan is going to have an outstanding year together, barring health.
Gotcha. But so let me rephrase it this way. When I remember watching Queen on LSU and watching Simpson on Clemson, they're not that different because Queen struggled with that for the longest time, and even sometimes now he does know how to get away from the blockers, how to shed those blocks a little better, especially the pullers. But still, sometimes he gets sucked in because he gets caught watching the ball, and then the puller just comes and swallows him. But yeah, I think. Let me put it like this. I think he was the right pick if you like the Queen style linebacker to potentially replace Queen, but not this year.
He might have been the right pick, just not in the 3rd round. We needed a corner. I don't think we needed what he brings. I feel like there was plenty of corners out there that were available. I think corner was a more pressing position, but I saw somewhere, and I don't know if it was a Ravens thing, that they said that he was a bunch of people's number 1 interior linebacker. I find that hard to believe, but
Well, there was one linebacker in the 1st round, so I'm assuming. Now
that linebacker sucked, Sonny. I watched him. He sucked. The best interior guy I saw was the kid from Arkansas.
The Arkansas State?
No, just Arkansas. Drew Sanders, maybe. The kid the Lions picked, he was bad. To me, he was bad.
The Iowa kid.
Yeah.
I remember I watched a little bit of him because I know the guys in the AC North talk about him. They maybe in the 3rd round, not in the 1st. I this year concentrated myself in corners and wide receivers. Right, I did not look at quarterback. I was not gonna look at quarterback. And middle linebackers are like, yeah. If we pick somebody in the 4th round, I probably will not know at that point who it is. I'll just take a look afterwards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing happened with Robinson for me. Look, I see the potential, right?
Oh, who we talking about? Robinson?
Trenton, yeah. So we move to the next pick. Trenton, Travius Robinson, Tavius Robinson.
That's the kid from Ole Miss, right?
Ole Miss, yes. Okay. I can see the potential. I think what they saw was this guy is big and can play hand in the dirt. We can coach him. I don't think he is a 3-4 outside backer, right? I know he started like that in Ole Miss. I think his best trait is hand in the dirt. Can he be like an Urban type of guy? I think Urban's a little bit taller than him, but can he be that type of guy that is your 3 tech? They can keep the line together. They can help set the edge on the running games. Not overly great in the pass rusher. Maybe. I just think this year I don't see him adding a lot to the team. And as a 4th round pick, there were other players that I would like for them even to trade up a couple picks to grab. Double A, I know Quincy used to like him a lot from
Northwestern,
yeah. He would have been better as an outside rusher, right? And then that's another developmental guy, but better than him. It wouldn't cost you a ton of picks to move that to get him. Anyway, what do you thought about that pick?
I didn't like it because of, again, I was thinking a skill position. But as far as his play, I can't really say yet because he's who I'm going to watch today.
Okay.
So once we finish, that'll be the guy I watch for today. So I honestly don't have a yay or nay about it. I initially wish we had a win corner, but I don't want to bash him, and I don't know his skill set because I haven't seen any snap other than what was on the TV when we picked him, and I was at BJ's, eating a burger.
Yeah, I mean, but those are the pretty highlights, right? I just think, yeah, those are the good things. You want to see everything. I think it's decent. I can see the path to potential, right? And Marabike, I think, is 6'2". The other guys are maybe 6'3" or below. This guy being 6'6", I think they want at least 1 3 tech that is big. We used to have 2, right, with Urban and Campbell. This dude is 6'6". Urban might be here for an extra year, but next year she's probably gone. He's getting up in age. We don't have Campbell. So I think they want height in that D-line, and we had none. And I think even if it's not this year, I think he's there to impact, hopefully, the following year. And again, so this is why I think he's going to be more of an inside guy, that 3 tech. And he hopefully develops. And then we have done a good job developing the inside guys. So that's what I can see. That's what I see from Tavius Robinson. Look, for the other 3 guys, which are the 3 guys to be signed today, by the way, Caillou, Blue, Kelly. So I did went and watch his tape.
I did him yesterday.
Okay.
I was thoroughly impressed with the kid. I saw 4 or 5. I was like, oh crap. And I judged him. I did.
Yeah.
What I like about him is he's always where he's supposed to be. He's good in transition. And the main thing I love about him, you can visibly see him communicate when you watch him on tape. You can see him point out route combinations to the safety or be like, I got this, you got this, or whatever. You visually see that. And there's only one play that I saw him like where his speed was a issue. Addison got him on a post. And he had great technique.
Talk about it, yeah.
He had great technique, but Addison got right beside him. And at that point, the speed took over. And, Addison got him like a 60-yard bomb. But for the most part, he was aggressive and in his play, especially attacking screens. He was smart as far as transitioning. When he would play fade routes, he knew he couldn't run with those guys. So he pressed them to the sideline once he got into his trail phase. And so you would have to throw perfect balls to him. So I was thoroughly impressed with Kelly after my initial thought, like this 4.52, he gonna suck. But I was wrong. In my opinion, I was wrong.
Yeah. So I watched the tape. And I said that I did a lot of corner, but he wasn't one of them. I didn't even know anything about this dude, right? When he plays, you can see why he's in Stanford. The dude
Mhm.
has it here. And he also, you know what he also knows, which I love this even more than anything. He knows his limitation and he knows how to play to his limitations, right? He
Mhm.
knows, okay, this is my limitation. What can I do to counter as much
Yeah.
as I can?
He does a good job of accentuating his strengths and hiding his weaknesses.
Yes. So this year, I think he might be a special teamer,
Mhm.
but next year I can see him trying to push for that starting role. Um, Let me say it like this: a guy that I did like last year coming out, Armour Davis. I can see Caillou pushing Armour Davis and overtaking him next year, maybe this year, but if not
Mhm.
next year, um, in the depth chart.
Yep.
Pepe, I think Pepe's a different corner. I think Pepe is destined to be a slot corner.
Mhm.
I think Caillou can be an outside corner, but if Armour Davis is not careful, last year he had a rough beginning, and again, fourth round pick. People are too hard on a fourth and fifth round pick. When you have a fourth, fifth round pick there over the Cheetah, I don't know what you're expecting. Now, my problem with him, specifically Armour Davis, wasn't different for what you're saying about Caillou. Caillou got beat because of a weakness, right? That
Mhm.
we recognize. Armour Davis, he had a couple of mental mistakes.
Right.
And those are the issues that I have, right? The mental mistakes. If you get beat, like when Stevens, people love to criticize Stevens, but when Stevens gets beat, he gets beat because limitations.
Mhm.
And not because he's not aggressive. He rarely does mental mistakes, especially maybe after his rookie year, right? So I can live with that, right? Marlo sometimes get beat because the other guy was a little bit better than him in that play. I can live with that. But when you have mental mistakes, like Kyle Hamilton had a couple mental mistakes also in the first couple games, but he
Mhm.
corrected. By the end of the year, you're like, okay, he's good. He corrected that.
Mhm.
Can Armour Davis do the same? That is the question. I love Caillou pick. For fifth round pick, I was like, you know what? I'm sold. Sign me up. This kid is gonna be. This kid has the potential to be a good player for the Ravens. I
Mhm.
do think it's weird because he's thin. He's very light frame, but he cannot bulk up because he's slow enough, right?
Right.
No, he has good technique on tackling, right? He's not afraid to put his nose there.
Mhm.
So I like. Oh, I love that pick. One of my favorite picks. Now, if I go to the 6th and 7th round pick, look, I can't pronounce the guy's name. Or
Sal. Sala. We're just gonna say Sala.
just Sala. Okay, Sala. Perfect. That works for me. I really can't. I watched a little bit of his tape. I love O-line play, by the way. People in the AFC North talk, they say I'm the trenches guy because I do think you build the O-line, you build the D line, and then from there the rest of the team gets formed.
Mhm.
Um, I think he could be like when I saw him, especially I saw him playing tackle, and I was like, okay, what would we pick this guy? Because we have Falele,
Mhm.
and I feel like he's like kind of Falele 2.0. He's big, athletic-ish, like Falele is athletic-ish. Are we
That's
just
big
picking?
ish.
Yeah, are we just picking him to fight with Falele to potentially replace Morgan Moses? I mean, that's what it seems like to me. They say like, oh, he can play guard. I don't know if he can play guard. Maybe, but I saw it like a couple snaps at guard, and I was not in love. Versus the other guy, just to bring it in Voorhees,
Voorhees, yeah.
that dude is like complete. Like
Yeah.
that dude right now, if he can recover from the ACL next year, I can say, okay, I can see them saying, okay, Siler, we love you, but again, we need to shave money from places. Voorhees, that injury happened early enough that he should be ready for next year.
Mhm.
Okay, Voorhees, you're penciling as a right tackle. You're gonna compete, but I can see him translating what he had in USC to the right guard position. Sala, I don't know, but what do you think about these two guys?
I haven't watched a lot of Sala. I do know, and Jared just mentioned it in the comment section that uh Carter basically body slammed him on that one play with Oregon. So I haven't watched a lot of Sala. I know what position he's playing. He's the guy I'm gonna take a look at tomorrow, Saturday. But I
Mhm.
have seen some of Voorhees, and had Voorhees not been hurt, he would have been nowhere close to near where he got drafted
No.
at.
Third round pick at worst, I think.
If he can get healthy throughout the season and then come back at training camp next year, you can almost pencil him in to fighting for a starting job, whether it be left guard and depending on if Zeitler hangs it up or not at right guard. Voorhees is I don't want to say he's that deal, but he's pretty darn good, and his injury is the reason why we were able to get him. And we bashed DaCosta. But this was slick.
That was good. I agree.
This was a slick move because if you think about it, he's probably a second or third round pick.
Yep.
And we got him for a sixth next year.
Next year. Yep.
So basically, you flip the 6 for a 4th next year because you probably won't find a 6th round lineman that's as good as Voorhees is going to be for us next year. And he's basically taking a red shirt year like Ojabo last year. So.
Yep. Which, by the way, if that is the case, as Raven fans, should be fine with that. You have players right now to compete for that left guard position.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland,
you got Zeitler that can play. Not Zeitler. You got McCarry that can play every position. You got Cleveland, and I'm sure some of the guys that they brought in are going to try to compete for it too. I put out the video last year saying being Cleveland is your job to lose. I still think that.
Yeah. Well, last year it was his job to lose, but he got pushed out.
But it started with the test.
Yeah.
But he couldn't pass the test. He got in the doghouse. So he could have came out and been gangbusters after he didn't pass that test. And Harbaugh, you know how he do when you get in the doghouse. But I will say this: J.K. had one of his best games running behind Ben Cleveland. The game
I saw that video. You did a video of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cleveland will be the left guard, right? I think it was good last year. He had good play time, but he didn't start. And again, to be fair, Ben Power had a really, really strong year. Mm-hmm. So I'm not here saying like Ben Power. No, Ben Power had a strong year.
He sure
did. I'm not here second guessing why he didn't play. Ben Power had some. He got paid. He got like actual pay. It wasn't like somebody just gave him a contract. No, he got paid. Mm-hmm. The question is for me, Cleveland. I think Cleveland has the job. I think Cleveland can be as effective as Power was last year. Mm-hmm. And if that is, and I'll go back to this, if that is the case, your O-line is set, right? Falele is there as your backup tackle, competing with Salah. We'll see who wins it, right? They might keep both because then you have McCarry, which is your utility guy for anything. He's worth every penny because you definitely take him and use it. I'm assuming they're going to use him also as a backup center because we don't have Colon anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be your lineman. But in the case of Voorhees, then you say, okay, Voorhees, don't even worry about coming this year. Just rehab, do whatever it is that you need to rehab in-house and next year. And again, I don't know if Zeitler wants to retire, but I think they're gonna start looking to shed some contract. And if they think Voorhees can be that guy, they might just trade it.
This is his 3rd year, correct?
With us, yes.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, his deal was 4. Or was it 3?
I believe it might have been 4, but let me see site.
But because normally while you're looking for it, normally it's 3 to play 2, or it's 4 to play 3. You know how that goes. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I'm thinking. This is his last year contractually anyway.
It is his last year.
Yeah. So it's not even. So this is 3rd of 3 coming up.
Yep. Yeah. This is it. We just.
And how old is he? Does it say?
33.
Oh yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
He's 33. I mean, for interior O-line, they can play a little bit longer. He just has a bunch of Boyd years after this year because we were looking to have some cap space. If they don't think Voorhees might be ready, I can see them extending him for an extra year. Mm-hmm. It's not super expensive, and he's worth because he's been solid as a right guard. Like I'm not here worrying in any game like, oh, my right guard. I'm not saying he's a Pro Bowl All-Pro, but he's definitely like a solid right guard you have to worry about. Healthy, right? He played all games. Mm-hmm. Him and Moses are the same, just in different positions, right? Moses is a solid right tackle. He's not going to be a Pro Bowl, but he is a solid right tackle. Would you want better in both? Yeah, but then you're just pushing for a Pro Bowl player in that position, which we strive to have. That's hopefully Voorhees.
When you look at the whole picture of it, son, you can't have pros and Pro Bowls in every position. Yeah. You can't. That's why the cap is the way it is. You got to pick and choose where you spend your money. And the teams that do it the best are normally the better teams.
Exactly. And this, I'll go back to this. Is why now there's even more pressure on the Ravens to draft well, because with Lamar's contract being how it is, yes, you can be signing players, right? And if Odafe, for example, does not pay out this year, next year you just had to go to the draft, because edge rushes are super expensive. So it's not like, oh yeah, let me just find one in free agency. Nope,
Right.
you need to go get draft one. Anyway, so overall, I think it was a good class. I think Say Flowers, love the pick. Simpson, I'm hoping next year he can be an impactful player. Voorhees the same way, right?
One more thing about Simpson. I think he's going to be a special teams demon. Simpson. Like just wreak havoc on special teams.
Well, remember Zach Orr? He started as a special team demon, and then eventually he was he converted to. I mean, he was a middle linebacker, but eventually he became a good middle linebacker, and then sadly injuries took him away from the game. Can he be that, right? Zach Orr is back with us, so can Zach Orr coach him, right? Because Zach Orr was kind of a speedy linebacker, a little bit undersized. But I agree with you. And all these guys, I mean, not Tavius Robinson, but Caillou needs to make special team plays, and Simpson. Both of them, that's how they make the team. I like I said, I think a lot of these picks, I see them from next year, say as a day one. Other than Say, none of these guys I think are like a day one starter or impactful players for this year. The question is, and I'm okay if it happens like that. Can next year they be impactful, right? Can Simpson take over Queen? Because that would be great. Because then you don't have to worry about that middle linebacker. Can Voorhees can take the right guard position? Can Caillou be that fourth CB? If somebody gets injured, he can come and then in year 3 be a starter, right? As a fifth round pick, if that happens, that's amazing. That's what I want to see from this class.
I agree. Again, Zay impact this year. Kelly and Simpson Simpson rotational and special teams. Kelly, I think, is all special teams unless somebody gets hurt. And then the O-line picks are for the future. The O-line picks are for the future.
Yes, for sure. And Salah, look, I'm hoping he's good, because we do need a right tackle in the next year, right? Morgan Moses, I think he's also a free agent next year. But you're not gonna pay another right tackle. You have been drafting right tackles to be developed. Next year will be that year. And hopefully Stanley's healthy, because as we talk about, if Stanley's not healthy, then that becomes a big problem, because the left side, I mean, Falele played a couple snaps, and to be fair to Falele, he played way better than I thought. And well, he wasn't great.
To have never played left tackle at any level.
Exactly. He never played left tackle, and he played like a C left tackle. But in his first reps,
I think C is nice.
I think he was way better. It's okay. He was better than I thought, right?
Yeah.
Because I had lower expectations of him as a right guard. As a right tackle, because he still had development to do. Throw him on the left tackle. And were we playing the Browns in that game?
When?
I think when we put Falele.
I don't know. I just remember whoever it was, we did a lot of chipping with Ricard, Andrews, and the backs. We basically was losing a receiver every time because he had to help him. But in the run game, he was okay.
Yeah.
Pass pro, it was an issue. Well, so I guess it balanced itself out, because run game he was okay, and especially after that first quarter, and then passing game they had to find ways to help him, which I understand.
Yeah, but he needs to footwork, in my opinion.
Yeah. That's why I think he'll guard. If he needed to me, and I ain't heard this. No, this is my 2 cents. He needed to lose some weight.
Now
Get better footwork to stay at tackle. If not, kick him in the guard.
Okay. And then I did hear that the left guard position was going to be a battle between. Then they mentioned Falele. They mentioned Cleveland, which is probably right now the starter going into the camp. They mentioned Macari, but they would not want Macari to win that job, because he is the utility. But I heard those are the people that are going to be competing. Any final thoughts, Coach?
No, it's interesting class. Didn't have a lot of picks, so I'm excited to see this time next year if these picks panned out or not. Because it's tough to say during the season whether you had a good draft class or not because you don't know what guys going to do. And honestly, like I think I said on one of my shows this week, you really need to wait 2-3 years before you say, "Hey, this was a good draft class," because you don't know how guys develop, or some guys may come out and because people don't know how they play and have a great rookie year, and then once tapes out there on them, they ain't worth a flip. So you really need a year or two, maybe even 3, to say, "Hey, this was a good class," or it was a bad class or whatnot.
I completely agree. And my final thought is, if anything, you have to look at last year's class, right? How Kyle Hamilton plays. Does he take a step up, right? Linderbaum, he was great at the end of the year. Can he keeps developing, right?
Yep.
And then you have Ajabo, how Ajabo's going to play. And then you
Travis
have Travis Jones. Exactly. So those 4 are big. So if those 4 are starters and like good, great players, almost Pro Bowl type of players, then you're good. And then which of the other 2 corners are gonna develop, right?
Right.
Are we talking about is Armadeus gonna develop, or is it Pepe, or neither of them?
We talked about that draft class that the only person left was Justice Hill.
Yeah.
If you realistically and we don't hate on the draft class last year, you could have 7 or 8 guys that contribute from that class. The 4 you just named, either one of those 2 running backs. Obviously, the punter contributes because he punts.
Yeah.
Then you look at Kohler and Likely.
Yep.
So you can have 7 or 8 guys that contribute from a draft class, which is probably unheard of. And I don't mean contribute like hit spot here or there. I mean like actually play a lot and be productive.
I don't disagree. For me right now, the biggest question mark is the 2 corners. And if one of them can be a starter, that would be great. Because I actually look the Kohler pick I didn't like. I did like Likely. The Kohler pick, I was like, why? But then I saw him in that last week before the playoffs, and I'm like, this dude is finding the way to get open.
Yep.
He has soft hands. I was impressed with it. Actually, he gave me flashbacks of Pitta. Yep. He gave me flashbacks of Pitta. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I was wrong with him. What Likely needs to clean is the drops. Likely has mental lapses where it's not a bad throw, but he drops the ball. And that's a way for you to find yourself out of the league. So he needs to clean that up. In the case of Kohler, it was a 1-game sample size. But yeah, I mean, I love Oliver that we let go, right? But I understood why we needed to let him go because I think Kohler can be that 3rd tight end.
And we got a 4th already.
Who's the 4th? Oh, Pat Ricard? Yeah. I think Ricard, this is last year Ricard here too, because I think we will use him, but not as much. Right. So eventually he just kind of fade away in this offense. What you really want is either Kohler, or I mean Andrews does it sometimes lined up as a fullback, and then from there you can either go on a flat, go on the wheel, right? Just to keep it honest.
Really, I think you let him ride, and you do draft another tight end that's going to be a move guy.
Yeah,
maybe a heavier tight end that can be a move guy, and that's what you run with your 3 tight ends right there, 4 tight ends right there. You be Andrews, Likely, Kohler, and whoever that move person is.
Yeah, we need to find another Darnell Washington. Anyway, Coach, thank you for coming. Go check him out. Check his channel. You know who it is, Sip to Tally. Great videos, great film breakdown. Thank you all for watching. We will see you next time. Peace out.